Welcome to Guide to IELTS. In Writing Task 1 of IELTS Academic, test takers are asked to describe some visual information in their own words. It could be one or more bar graph, line graph, pie chart, table, process, map, or a combination of any of these. One needs to write a report by summarizing the information. The writing should be of at least 150 words and needs to be written in about 20 minutes. The Writing Task 1 academic question that will be discussed in this video is this line graph which shows the percentage of radio and television audiences in the UK. Some quick tips for Writing Task 1 academic before we start. Don't write your answers in points. Write complete sentences. Do not use contractions such as don't, isn't, etc. Write do not, is not instead. Use a variety of words, and it does not just mean big words. Do not give your opinion. Include the most important and most relevant points in the diagram. Some minor points or details may be left out. Plan your writing. The first step is trust your eyes. Look at the diagram given, and before you go into the details of numbers and figures, observe what features stand out visually. In this line graph, there are these two peaks which are at different points on the graph. And then there are the two lines at almost the same point at the beginning and end of the graph. Also, the two lines intersect at this one point. This gives us an idea of the main features. Now we move on to the second step, step 2. Study the data. Before we start writing, we should decide what we are going to write. Identify the maximum and the minimum. Also try to figure out the major changes, comparisons, and trends in the graph. The first thing you should do is look for maximum and minimum and see if there is a trend there. In this case, maximum for TV is approximately 45% at 8 p.m. Radio, however, is about 30% at 8 a.m. As for the lowest figures, for TV it is 6 a.m. at 0%, whereas for radio it is between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and the percentage for this is below 5%. Now we try to figure out if we can correlate this data and see some trend by comparing it. Compared to radio, television audience has a higher percentage, approximately 45% at its highest point, whereas the maximum for radio is just around 30%. In contrast, radio listeners are never zero, whereas TV viewership is zero at least for some time, around 6 a.m. Another important feature is the reversal of trend about when the two have maximum audiences. Maximum for TV is at 8 p.m. while maximum for radio is at 8 a.m. So the television viewership sees a peak in the evening while radio listeners are maximum in the morning. Also, the only time the two have almost the same percentage of audiences is between 2 and 4 a.m. below 5% and around 2 p.m. around 20%. So this is what your planning would look like. As I mentioned before, you can do this planning on your question paper in case of pen and paper IELTS. However, if you are appearing for computer delivered IELTS, you are given a paper and pencil for rough work and you can use these. This process of planning should not take more than 5 minutes. Ideally, you should target to do this within 2 to 3 minutes. Step 3. Finally, start writing. What needs to be kept in mind is that there is no one right way to write a report. The important thing is that you cover all the important points. We'll write 2 different reports here for the same graph to understand this. The first decision that needs to be made is whether we should write about TV first and then radio, or should we write about both simultaneously at different times. In the first sample report, we'll write about TV and radio simultaneously. Whichever way you go about presenting the data, the first paragraph needs to be paraphrasing of the question. Again, no one single way to do it. So in both the samples that we write, we'll paraphrase it differently. The question is, the graph below shows radio and television audiences throughout the day in 1992. The x-axis mentions the time of day or night, and the y-axis mentions the percentage of UK population over 4 years old. First paragraph. The given line graph depicts percentage of inhabitants of the United Kingdom over 4 years of age who watched television and listened to radio over the course of a day from October 1992 to December 1992. Second paragraph, minimum of both television and radio. So we'll write it as, the lowest number of listeners for radio are after midnight when they start dropping, touching a minimum of below 5% at around 2 a.m. In contrast, the minimum for television viewing is at 6 a.m. when it is at 9%. Interestingly, the percentage of radio audiences never drops to zero at any time throughout the 24-hour period. In the third paragraph, we'll write maximum followed by other important features. Conversely, there is a huge difference in the highest number of audiences for the two media being compared. Television viewership is at a peak at a little below 50%, whereas the maximum percentage that the radio auditors reach is approximately 30% of the UK population. We could have just mentioned the time of the maximum percentages in the previous sentence itself, but a better way is to specify that both the peaks are at 8 but at a 12-hour difference. We'll write this as, a striking feature is that both these peaks are at about 8, but it is in the evening for the television viewers and in the morning for the radio listeners. Moreover, the percentage of television and radio audiences among UK populace is only similar at around 2 a.m. when it is below 5% and around 2 p.m. at approximately 15%. So this is a screenshot of the whole writing from our website. Now on to the second sample for the same line graph, in which we'll write about audience percentages for both in the morning and then comparisons in the percentages as the day progresses. The first paragraph is again paraphrasing of the question, but we'll try it a little differently as compared to the first sample. The first paragraph, the line chart illustrates how many people of the United Kingdom who were above 4 years used television or radio as a mode of entertainment between October and December 1992. Next, an overall statement. Overall, television is preferred in the evening and radio in the morning by the inhabitants of UK. In the first sample, we wrote about the highest figures first, then about the lowest, and then about the features we got from comparing the two. Here we'll write about television trends first and the radio trends next. The television viewership is 0% at 6 in the morning, sees a few ups and downs till 2 p.m. when it is at almost 20% and then rises steadily, hitting a peak of almost 50% in the evening around 8. As the time progresses, the number of inhabitants of UK who watch television keeps decreasing gradually, reaching below 5% at 2 a.m. Now for the radio figures. On the other hand, the figures for radio listeners are a little less than 10% at the start of the day at 6. A steep rise is observed till 8 a.m. when the radio auditors are at a maximum of approximately 30%. From 8 in the morning, these numbers are at a downward trend till 2 p.m. After a slight increase for the next 2 hours, the decrease in these figures continues till 2 in the morning. This is a screenshot of this sample from our website. You can find these writings and more on our website www.guidetoielts.com. The link to these writings on the website is in the description of this video. Before we end, let's take a look at the vocabulary that we have used in these two samples. That's it for now. If you found this video useful, do like, share and comment. Spread the word and subscribe to our channel. If there is any particular writing question that you would like us to discuss, or if you have questions about anything else related to IELTS, ask in the comments below and we try to answer it in our forthcoming videos. Bye for now from guidetoielts.com.